what we do, mostly at the end of the month on a Wednesday, every month, we try to showcase an independent filmmaker. Dale was here last time. So, and now today. That was good. And today we got Jojo, guys. It's remarkable what we're going to watch. So we're going to do the question and answer after. He's going to say a few words, and then we're going to all enjoy this together.
All right. How we doing? That's not loud enough. That's nowhere loud enough. How are we doing? That's what's up. Well, thank you guys for coming so much. This means so much to me. I love to go into this blind, honestly. There's not that much I want to say. It is adult comedy, so if you get triggered easily by stuff like that, this is your window. But yeah, that's what I got. I'll be back after for Q&A, so prep questions, please, because sometimes we do these things and no one has questions. So please, use your brains.
That's the reason we do this all the time, to showcase, with friends, family, to show like the talent we have. You don't have to be in Hollywood to do fun stuff. So here's the question and answer.
Let's do it.
What questions we got?
Back there, you gotta yell really loud.
What's next for Brutus and what's next for you?
Oh, give me a microphone. Let me run, hold on, no one heard what you said. Let me run up and have you say the question again. What's your name, little boy?
I'm Alex. What's next for Brutus and what's next for you?
It's a great question. What's next for me is probably jail. What's next for Brutus? Well, the goal is to turn it into a full show. I have a full season of 10 episodes written, ready to go. It's just money. Money is the hard part. That was fully self-financed by me. I pitched it to a bunch of Hollywood studios. They weren't insanely crazy about it, but I was insanely crazy about it, so I took a risk and made it. It was pretty good, right? I think it was pretty good. I was fishing for that. I was completely fishing for that. So the goal is to turn it into a full show. We're just looking for funding right now, so if you know anybody that's looking to earn some cash, send them my way. You, right there. Hold on, there's a microphone coming.
Tater tot, or something else entirely.
Can you start that from the beginning?
Is he a potato or a tater tot?
So he's a chicken nugget, actually.
Okay, there we go.
But you know what? That was such a hard thing about designing a character. I mean, he's going to come up in literally 1 second. We wanted to do the McDonald's shape of chicken nugget, but I'm like 90% sure it's copyright owned, so we couldn't do the full shape.
For real?
I'm 90% sure. I'm not a lawyer.
10%? Go for it.
I love that there's a dialogue happening here. This is really nice.
About the chicken nugget, yes.
Yeah, so the goal was to make it a chicken nugget, but it's kind of like, it's going to be such a weird reference, Uniqua and Backyardigans, where whatever people say it is, we'll just, that's what it is.
That's what it is.
But in my mind, it's a chicken nugget.
In my heart, it's a potato chip. But that's okay.
And I respect that. I respect that. Thank you. Thank you for voicing it.
Yeah.
Speaking of voicing, who else we got? Oh, someone behind a pillar.
Bernie, why a gorilla?
It's a great question. So originally he was supposed to be a giant metal drummer. This was made for a pitch for a writing class I took in college. And my professor was just like, make a bunch of pitches for shows and next class we'll talk about them. And I was like, shit, now I gotta come up with like a bunch of pitches. And one of the ones I wrote was about this massive metal drummer who has extreme social anxiety. And I love the idea because it's this big dude who's so tiny inside. And in the pitch I said he had silverback stature. And my professor kind of took a second and thought about it, and he's like, why isn't he just a gorilla? And I immediately didn't want to do that because BoJack was kind of the height of its popularity, and I'm like, you can't fight BoJack. Nobody can fight BoJack. But my professor was like, who gives a shit? If you have a great idea, and this seems like it could be an accessory to it, give it a shot and see what you can do with it. And I took a weekend and thought about it and was fully ready the next Monday to be like, no, he's a metal drummer and that's my vision. But the more I thought about it, I'm like, I actually like that he's a gorilla, because when you think about gorillas, they're massive. They're, for a lot of those alpha male guys, they're the epitome of masculinity. I'm getting too close to the speakers. And when you see him, he's shy, he's tiny, where are these speakers? There they are. He's just a really tiny guy. And I love that juxtaposition of this really big dude who feels really tiny inside, and through this pilot just learns to be more confident in himself.
Yeah, that's a good question because I thought Brutus was inspired from German from Sing. You saw Sing?
No, you know what? A lot of people say that though, which concerns me because I think that the single words might be coming from me really soon.
It feels like his cousin or something in the same family, so...
Maybe I'll reach out to DreamWorks.
I'm going to piggyback off of some of the stuff that's been asked. The characters, or specifically the plot of this episode, was any of this inspired by anything you went through in college or anybody that you knew?
Yeah.
In this kind of situation?
That's a really good question. This was inspired loosely from my time living in Vegas. I do have to say Brutus is not inspired by me. Everyone loves bringing that question up. I'm just going to stand in the center of the room. If I walk around this pillar, everybody can see me, so we'll just do that. So it has nothing to do with me, but the idea of Brutus as a character, not Brutus as a character, of the party being do you like this? How I'm just walking around here? Is this helping out? The idea of the house party came from when I was in high school. I had a girl I was going out with that I was crazy about who wanted to go to this party for Halloween, and she was on the guest list, and I was not. And I had to literally climb over a fence to get into the party. And I felt like the odd one out, but being there I realized that everybody's just trying to have a good time, and I love with his pilot, Brutus is discovering that for himself. You know, as he goes through this, I think he thinks everyone is looking at him. In every shot you can check, no one is looking at him until he makes a really big scene. So it was loosely inspired by my experience in high school, growing up here, going to parties, and you can kind of see that through some of the interior design and that shot at the end of Vegas, but yeah, it was loosely based on that. You know what is a great time to segue, the person who answered that is actually a voice actor in the project. If you want to come up, come, you get a chance to walk over. This is Mark Stubblefield. He has his own, he's got his own microphone.
Yeah, I'm important, I get to keep the mic. No.
Who did you voice on the project?
So I voiced a super small role. I approached JoJo because he knew that I'm a musician and I'm a middle school band director here in Vegas, but I was talking to him about the fact that voice acting is something I've always wanted to do because I run a D&D game. I run several D&D games, and I find myself doing all these silly voices. So he was like, "Hey, I'm making a show, and it's not a big role or anything, but I need someone to voice this random guy at the party who's supposed to kind of be a dick, but not really. He's kind of just doing his own thing, and this massive gorilla walks up to possibly steal the girl that he's talking to." So I was the little frog in the hat, but I was incredibly happy to be able to work on the project with JoJo. Even with working with him as both a friend and also the person who I signed a contract to work with.
There is legally a contract. He is legally obligated to say all of these things.
It's true, yeah. I get a big check from this. No. But it was a delight. JoJo, it was wonderful to work with, and you can tell just working with him, he has this idea in his head that he is attached to, and he's gonna make it he's gonna make a dream come true. It's awesome. Can we get another round of this?
Well, now I gotta go field questions. You stand up here. Does anybody here have any questions? That hasn't. You have one. Little boy from before. What do you got?
A2 Brute.
Yeah.
Great. That's not a question. Well, technically a question. It is technically a question. It's funny. I grew up special ed. Very weird note to take this story, but I grew up special ed, and one of the things that I didn't understand a lot of stuff, but I immediately understood Shakespeare. Shakespeare made perfect sense to me. I think just because that disconnected language, just my weird goopy goblin brain, it made sense. But Brutus is a name that I think really strikes big. I don't know how to explain it. It's a big name. And I mean, in just the tragedy of Julius Caesar, he's really the main character of it. Even though it focuses on Julius Caesar, he is the main guy. So to have this super big gorilla who's extremely socially anxious and has the name of probably one of the most famous political assassins in history, I think that's just a really funny juxtaposition. But there's really no connection to Shakespeare. It's just Brutus is a cool name. And I'm sick of Shakespeare taking all the credit for it, because some dude had it before and no one remembers him, and hopefully you don't remember that dude, because he's kind of cool. You got him. What's your name, little boy?
Dale. Okay, so I saw someone else did the animation. So how does it work with the director in animation? Tell us the process of how that works.
That's a great question. Yeah, so I did none of the animation for this. I come from a fully live action writing and directing background. I got my bachelor's in writing and directing for live action. But I had previously worked for Starburns Industries. They did the animation for Rick and Morty and Community and all of these amazingly cool animated shows. And I just wanted to try my hand at it. So I knew nothing about animation going into it. I just watched YouTube videos and tried to figure out like what is the workflow. The way that I did it, which I've now learned is not traditional, but who gives a shit, we can do stuff however we want. I recorded all the voiceover lines myself, drew storyboards of every single shot, and then made a mini movie of it. I contemplated bringing it tonight, I watched it 20 times, there's no way, my voice is too embarrassing. But I'm a very visual person, so I needed to visualize the entire story going into it. And I'm gonna walk to this side, I feel like I'm neglecting this side of a room. So, you know, I tried to visualize, but now I can't see you. What did I do? I tried to visualize it as much as I could going into it. And doing that really helps, because what I learned from doing animation, this is such a weird, no one else can see this, it's such a weird angle to talk to you from, just R2D2 in the middle of this amazing freezer. In visualizing it, what I realized is when you direct live action, you're directing scene by scene. When you direct animation, you're directing second by second. Because literally every single thing in one of these shots had to be designed by someone, mainly by me. But, I mean, in this shot, like them high-fiving, that door frame, that outlet, their outfits, the cinematography of it, and then transitioning to outside, all of these things had to be choreographed so minutely. Versus with live action, we just show up to set one day and be like, whatever, that table looks fine, we'll deal with that actor, whatever. But with this, literally everything had to be planned to the second, which was extremely stressful. But it was way more fun, I think, than live action filmmaking. I mean, I still love live action filmmaking, but doing this just had the dopamine I got from finishing it felt way better. Because I've watched this maybe 100 times. Part of me is sick of it, but part of me is just like in awe that I was able to create something like this, because knowing that every single second, every single frame had to be accounted for. I mean, this scene specifically, every single little arm movement, every single little thing, like, occasionally I would consider sending videos to the animator being like, an arm should move like this, and then my mom would be like, you don't need to do that, that's not something you need to do. But getting to that level of detail is so crucial in animation. And another thing is there's not that much improv in animation. You know, you have everything, like I said, planned in a second. So we have these jokes planned out. Once it gets to the animator, there's not that much you can do with it. We can't go back and change a whole line. We can't go back and say, I mean, you can, but then I have to pay basically for all that out of pocket. It's not like live action where it's like, we'll just book another day for recordings and we still have the set. I mean, we still have all of these assets, but one animator did this entire project, which for animation is unheard of. You only have a team of like 10 to 15 people working together. One dude out of North Carolina did everything for this. Can we get a hand for him really quick? He fucking killed it. He did so good. So everything that went into this, I had to give him, I love leaning over this one, I had to give him visual notes on, which is a lot. And I know, this is Dale, everybody. I know you do live action. You know that when you make something, you're planning it, but when you get to set, there's a lot of like wiggle room in what you can do and can't do. Everything in this was so minute that watching this, there are things that I'm still like, we gotta go back and fix that. We have no time. There was one line that was improvised. It's the one where Violet the alien is saying, I'm gonna break your nose and shove it down your throat. We had like 15 takes of that, because I wanted a lot of variety for it from the animator, but same thing, once I gave it to the animator, that was it. We were done. So once it went off to him, I kind of had to step back and take a mini vacation so I wouldn't blow my brains out from stress. It was such a big process. I hope that answered your question. I rambled for forever. Yeah. Now everyone's scared to ask questions because you don't have to ramble like that. You? What's your name?
My name is Justin, and I just had a question about where do you see Brutus and his friends exploring Vegas? Because I know there's a lot of crazy shit in Vegas, and I want to know where you guys are going to go.
It's a great question. I don't know how much I want to spoil. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, how many people, to show of hands, are locals that actually live here? Well, I'm seeing hands that are not going up, and that makes me worry. So, I mean, all of you know, Vegas is a crazy place. When I would do screenings of this, we took this on the road for film festivals. I should have opened with that probably. This is an 9-time official selection animation project. So when I would take this on the road, people would constantly be like, you should make an episode about Buh, you should make an episode where Nikki and Brutus go Buh. But being in Vegas, it's hard to kind of write because everything is so crazy. I can kind of go into some of the episodes. Yeah? You want me to violate tons of NDAs for you real quick? Yeah? He says I should. No, I will. Because I don't care about contracts. So, let me think. Well, we do have one episode where Nelson, the mean guy from the show, they all go to the same high school, I should mention that. This is all kind of set in a very fictitious high school that's based on Palo Verde, where I went to high school, and loosely based on high schools around the Vegas area. But they all go to high school together, and Nelson is going to have a big birthday party, and a celebrity chef is going to cater it, and Nikki G is intent on getting a piece of cake from the party, because it's his favorite chef and / celebrity in the world. And so he plans this whole Ocean's 11 style break-in to get a piece of cake. That's a mild one in comparison to what I have, because a lot of the episodes are we have one about like Korean barbecue, which is about all I can say about that without getting into spoilers, but there are tons about, we have a mall based on Town Square, which is, it's the same thing, but we replace the aesthetic with like a German Oktoberfest village. So it's lots of little stuff like that where I think people that live in Vegas are really going to get a lot out of it. But people that aren't part of Vegas are going to be like, oh, this is weird. People actually live here? And then we all get to be like, yeah, we do. Which I grew up in Chicago when Shameless was coming out, and I know very acutely how annoying that is, so you're all extremely welcome that you get to have that now. Yeah. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Thank you. You said your name? Justin. I did.
You can ask them, yeah.
What's up?
Hi, my name is Brianna.
Hi, Brianna.
I hope this isn't accidentally a spoiler, but you just talked about how every second had to be planned. You took a lot of attention to character design. Is there a distinct reason that some of the characters are animals and pizzas, and some of them appear to be like just humanoid normal?
That's a great question. So there is. And I'm totally open to talking about that. It's not so much a spoiler, but it's something that when we get into the show will be more fleshed out. Who asked before, and I brought up the BoJack thing? It was someone back there. Was it the little boy? I think it was the little boy.
Yeah.
So BoJack, I loved that all of these animals were like very distinct. Like, oh, BoJack is a horse, and but I didn't like that the symbolism ended there. So there are a few rules for the universe that there are like animals and creatures and monsters, but the core of all of it is that they are symbolic of the person they are supposed to be. So Brutus is supposed to be a very confident guy, so he's a gorilla. He's not that in his performance, and so eventually he will get there. I don't fully want to talk about why, but there's a reason why the human characters are human. And there's a reason why, like for example, Nikki G has a chicken nugget head, but the rest of him is a person. You know, so there's a lot of things like that where once we get into the show, that'll be explained. But I love symbolism in storytelling. I love getting deep into the minutia of like things people may never notice, but I notice, the people that are hardcore into it will notice, so yeah. Like you said, I can't spoil that much, but I hope that adds a little bit of context to it.
No, that's awesome. Thank you.
Of course. I can actually bring the mic over to you.
I'm curious, what are your thoughts about, some people say AI is going to take over animation. What are your thoughts?
That is a great question. So, I've always been of a house of belief that AI is a tool. I think a lot of studios are looking at it in the lens that it is a replacement. I don't personally think it is because, I mean, like I told you guys, this is one animator working on it. I can literally sit with you and tell you every error he made. That makes the project. That makes it whole. That makes it fun. If a computer made this, number one, it would be like too perfect. You know when you see something and it's like too perfect? Like a lot of AI is too good. And there's not that much enjoyment in it. You know, I was so lucky to grow up in Chicago and have a fine arts background, going to museums and being around that, and seeing in paintings when you see them in person, the little moments where it might not be a fuck up, you're like, oh, I actually noticed this thing about it. I wonder if that was intentional. Computers can't do that. You know, the human element of the story will never be able to fully be replaced. I think there will be people that, which we're already kind of seeing, of like, I put words for a song into a computer and it makes a song, and it actually sounds like a real song. But we all know that's AI, and we don't look at it as lesser than or better than anything. We just kind of know, oh, that's AI. So I think that distinction is going to be made a lot clearer. Like, if we made Brutus with AI, you'd be able to tell. I don't think it's ever going to get to a point where it is 100% replacing. And for people that don't know, the Animation Guild is going on strike right now for this exact reason. Hollywood is very intent on replacing everyone with robots. I think that's fucked up because the guy who made this lives in North Carolina. He was a recent animation school graduate. He was staying with his family. To me, it is so great that I was able to give him an opportunity to do something like this when Hollywood is so willing to throw all of those people out who make some of our favorite art. You know, if we go back even 10 years to animated shows, they're so well done because people really give a shit about it. Computers don't give a shit about this. We can tell it, give this many shits about it, it never will. So I think that people are going to try and make it replace it. It's never gonna. You know, in the same way that the self-checkout never fully replaces the cashier. Because all people self-checkout and be like, this is bullshit, I'm gonna go use that person over there. And sometimes you use the self-checkout and you're like, okay, I gotta use it, it's quick, I just want this quick little thing. And there will be that always in entertainment, these quick little dopamine fixes where we want something very easy, we want something quick. You know, like our TikToks and our Instagrams are just very quick, very like efficient media. But for stuff like this that's long form, I think it will serve as a tool, as an accessory, not a replacement. So I hope that answers your question. I'm very pro-human, as you can tell. Anything else? Can I just say really quick, this is the longest Q&A we've done for this.
I was going to ask you, because you mentioned earlier that whether someone's a person or a food or an animal, it's kind of based off of their personality. Do you, looking around the room, is there anyone here that you know well enough that you could be like, I know exactly what kind of character you would be?
You're just fishing, you're just fishing. That's a great, you know what, that's a great question. Let me take a little loop and see who we got.
Only if you're afraid of being out.
You're smiling too hard. I can.
Stephanie wants you to do
I want your
Well, you know what? Not to deflect from the question, but somebody like Mark is who I envision Brutus kind of being like. And that was kind of a thing with the designing folks of the show. I cast people who looked kind of like the characters. So I had a rough idea in my head of like what Brutus is supposed to look like, and Mickey G, and all of these characters. But until I got the official casting, we didn't end up fully designing them. And it was funny because Will Brady, the guy who plays Brutus, in my mind, if we were to make this live action, he would be Brutus. So there's little things like that, where the design language really comes in. I mean, does anyone really want to hear what it would be? I'm not. Goose. Goose. Okay, everybody, who wants a nuts?
Okay, do me.
I actually don't have one. I don't know. Justin's definitely a turtle. Oh God. But you know what? I mean, this is an excellent point on the kind of AI topic. You see how kind of hard it is to design a character based on looking at someone? A computer can do that in 5 seconds, and it doesn't have that much kind of like subtlety. It's very clearly like, oh, that's supposed to be you. You know, like we all did that thing with the yearbook where it was like, oh, here's what we look like in a 90s yearbook. Like we all did that. Or something like that, you know, like one of those like face trends. So designing characters, like just looking at someone is hard. But like I said, a lot of the design comes from the person's personality. So for example, like Violet, who's the purple alien, she's a recent immigrant from Brazil. So she's literally an alien, both physically and socially and mentally. She just doesn't really fit in yet. Whereas Nelson, I mean, Nelson's original design was supposed to be like a macho man, Randy Savage style, like 80s wrestler. But I ended up pulling that back because I felt like once I knew his character, it didn't fully line up with it. So I'll think of something for you eventually. We'll get there. I think that might be it. I feel like anything else? That's it. Thank you guys so much.